please have your attention? First of all, I'd like to say hello and welcome everyone here back again. Another evening, another great evening in the Golden Daycare Center. Tonight we have some very special guests once again with us. And we are going to network. We are going to learn about each and every one of our special guests. We will run the meeting just like we always do. And like we always do, we're going to take the opportunity before we start just to say a prayer. If I can have everybody please rise. Please, let's bring ourselves into prayer. Almighty Father, our preserver and our benefactor, we thank you for this evening's gathering, the food that we will eat, and more importantly, the network and friendship that we will gain from being together. We ask that you continue to bless us, our families, our communities, in our roles, in our public safety and government roles, and our parental responsibilities, and our student abilities to go forward, not only with this gathering in this leadership internship program, but in our schooling and making ourselves better citizens for the future. In all this, we ask this through your name. Amen. Amen. At this time, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our nation. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And take a look at the screen right now, and you'll see an individual in the United States Coast Guard uniform. His name is Andrew Su. Andrew Su was our former student, and upon completion of the program, became involved in a journey to join the United States Coast Guard. And he's in training right now, and he sends a message to the group tonight, and I just want to read it so you can hear from Andrew where he is right now, oceans apart from us. But dear fellow students, upon graduating from the United States Law Enforcement Coalition's internship program, someone else's quote. Sorry about that. Okay. But like I said, he's a cadet with the United States Coast Guard. And here's his quote. I'd like to say that my time with the United States Law Enforcement Coalition played a role in helping me get to where I am now. I'm reaching out to all of you because I'd like to be a resource to the other interns of this program. If you are interested in any information about the Coast Guard Academy or the other Federal Reserve and Service Academies, he'd be happy to talk about it. He'll be in New Jersey from November 22nd to the 25th. So if any of you would like to meet and ask him questions, he'd be more than happy to meet with you. And he's also available by email or on phone. And we can get this information through a group email to all the students if you'd like to just even give a remark to him about what a remarkable accomplishment it is for him and his family serving our country with the Coast Guard. Let's give a round of applause for Andrew. Oh, we have a video feed.
United States Coast Guard Academy. I'm a graduate of the USLEC internship program, and I'd like to think it played a role in helping me get to where I am today. It's an awesome program, and I'm grateful that I got to be a part of it. So I'm speaking to you today because I wanted to talk to you about my experiences here at the Academy. The United States Coast Guard Academy is one of 5 federal service academies. The others being the Military Academy, the West Point, the Naval Academy, the Air Force Academy, and the Merchant Marine Academy. Being a cadet or midshipman at any one of these institutions is definitely challenging, but it comes with its rewards. There's so many remarkable opportunities that have been given to me, and I've really gotten to do things that I never would have imagined doing. Just this past summer, I got to sail on America's tall ship, the Bark Eagle, where I sailed from Germany to Denmark to Belgium and then to France. After that, I spent a few weeks at Coast Guard Station, Cleveland Harbor, where I got to work with local law enforcement agencies and partners for a variety of missions. I'm a sophomore now, but when I graduate, I'll commission as an officer in a service that supports so many unique missions like drug interdiction, migrant interdiction, search and rescue, and environmental protection. I think what's unique about the Coast Guard is that it's so multifaceted. It's a military service, but also a law enforcement and humanitarian service. It's a service focused primarily on saving lives, not taking them.
If any of you are interested or want to know more, please don't hesitate to reach out. Mr. Song has my contact information, and I'd be more than happy to talk. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Doris, for that. And thank you. Didn't even expect that that was going to happen tonight, and especially the video feed of Andrew in his assignment. So we wish Andrew all the best. And the most important thing you take back is that Andrew was a graduate and a participant of this program. And programs like this inspires young people like you to be anything you want to be. And Andrew wanted to serve his country in the United States Coast Guard, and he made it happen, and he's currently making it happen. So God bless Andrew and his family and what he does for our country. So at this time, we're going to start our program, and we're going to talk about each and every one of the special guests that are here tonight and ask them to come forward and just give a little presentation about themselves and who they are and what they're doing. But I can tell you each and every one of them that I know them, and I call them as my friends. The first individual is Chief of Police Paul Sell. Chief Sell is the Chief of Police of Montclair State University Police Department. He's also a former and past president of the New Jersey State Police Chiefs Association, and just recently was the president of the International Association of Chiefs of Police, an organization that is worldwide one of the most prestigious police executive organizations there ever is and ever will be. A contingency of over 150 countries comprise of this International Police Chiefs Association, and he was the leader of it. I'm glad to call him a friend. I'd like to call him up now to say a few words. Chief Paul Sell.
Hide behind the podium here so you can't see my jeans if you're taking pictures. Listen, I want to just welcome everybody here tonight. And we talk about law enforcement and the opportunities that law enforcement gives us. And I will tell you this, I have been blessed. I'm a blue-collar kid from Newark, New Jersey. We joke about it, but I lived in apartments growing up. We never owned a home. We never owned a car. And even we joke about our pets were roaches, at nighttime when they would come out when it got dark. And I say that because a profession like law enforcement over 40 years has given me and my family so much. I have been blessed to hold leadership positions around the world. I have traveled to almost 150 different countries. I've worked closely, I've trained throughout the world. I've worked in South Africa, I've worked in Germany, I've worked in several other areas of the world. I've spent more time the month of March this year with the President of the United States than I did with my own wife. And I spent a lot of time in the White House. We were very instrumental in some of the bills and new laws that came out. Matter of fact, the First Step bill that was passed last March, that just passed, our organization was credited for helping it go through, and it's the only bipartisan bill that was signed under President Trump's term. And so we're really proud of that because we were able to bring both sides of the political parties together to look at what's going on in criminal justice reform, and that really is right in what we're talking about here today. And we looked at the people who have been sentenced, how they've been sentenced, have they been equally sentenced across the board, and then does the punishment actually fit the crime, which is the other piece. And so we're looking at that, and now we're also looking about new prisoners who are going into jail. How can we start them on a program so that when they get out, they're ready to come back into society and really help society and not be a repeat offender. So we're really proud of some of the things we've got to accomplish this year. Somebody at my table, Eric I think it is, asked me how did I get involved or how did I find out about this program, and I will tell you, this program is what it's all about. We can look at the big national, international programs around the world that deals with everything from terrorism to human trafficking, but the truth is, you are part of the legacy we leave, and that's the future. Our youth of our communities is who's going to be running this country in the near future. So years ago, I've known Chief Kugler for over 20 years now, and I'm proud to say he's a close friend, and he has a lot of humility, because when I started up in this whole political piece of law enforcement, he was my mentor. He was the one who gave me my first break at it and continued to support me all the way through to this last piece. I'm sitting here with Charlie Giblin, who actually worked with me 40 years ago. So we have been friends for, we are that old. And then finally when Daniel Song came along and started talking about this organization, and he wasn't in the beginning law enforcement when he first started to see how he could serve his community. I said, this is what it's all about. I want to be part of this. And I think any professional who doesn't want to be part of this is missing out. John Page, we go back, John, for how many years now? It's a while.
About 30.
About 30 years for John and I. So, what you see here is this is a profession that really bonds people. And we're all from different areas of law enforcement, but it bonds us together. And when it can bring us together for something as powerful as changing or helping guide the youth of our communities, then that's what it's all about. And Daniel, I have to commend you. As a person who wasn't law enforcement when you started this, I know you are now, but when you first started this, you weren't. To have the foresight and the heart to understand that this is what we need to do. I commend you for what you did. I'm proud, not only what you did, but I'm honored to call you my friends. A round of applause for Daniel. So as I stand here today and I look at each and every one of you, I say thank you, because you are going to lead us into the future. I hope that these type of meetings and these type of programs allow us to impart some of our knowledge, and I don't want to use the word wisdom, Charlie, but wisdom, have an experience of what we have been through on you and with you, to talk to you about it. Please feel free and open to ask us any questions. My table is dynamite, so Daniel and Rob, everybody here is great because they're so willing to talk and ask questions, and that's what it's really all about. Charlie, you're about to speak in a few minutes here, right? You're coming up next, so I'll let you talk about yourself. But just the other pieces, the parents are here. Can I just have a raise of hands for the parents who are here? Parents, don't be shy. I'm a parent. I have 5 of them out there. I have 5 kids running around. I want to thank you. I want to thank you also for having, the integrity to bring your children here, to expose them to this, the caringness to help them learn about what they want to do in the future and how we can all become closer as community members. We just got back from a trip with Daniel and Robert. We went over to Taiwan, Singapore, and Vietnam. And it's amazing. It's not easy to always get an audience with the leaders of these nations. But as soon as they heard what this was about, right, with law enforcement coming over there to meet with them, to learn about, first, the culture, and second, to help us get information to come back, to bring our community members, those who want to be, into the law enforcement fold. And even if many of you, and I know many don't want to get into law enforcement here, but just to build that community relation piece up is so, so important. So to the young people here, my advice to every young person I ever hire is never say no. Any opportunity you get, you take. Any door that opens, you walk through. Never be so focused on one direction in your life that you miss everything else that's going on. And enjoy every step along the way, because the adventure of life is amazing. And you should all be smiling as you're going. And at this age, man, every one of you should have a big smile on your face. I thank you again for allowing me to be here. I am always a resource if anybody needs it. And for the parents, again, thank you for allowing your children to be part of this and for helping promote this fantastic program. Thank you very much.
But anyway, at this time we have a new face in town. New face here tonight. It's Chief Charlie Giblin, good friend of Chief Sell as well. He's from the Treasury Office of Criminal Investigation here in New Jersey, and at this time I'd like to call him up to say a few words about himself and his role and what he does. Chief Charlie Giblin.
Thank you, sir. So usually when I teach at the academy, I never need one of these, but I'll make sure everybody does hear me. So you're probably thinking, what's an old white guy, an Irish kid whose mother brought him here to the United States? She grew up in Newfoundland in Canada. Came to the United States to have me because she was a young little Catholic school girl who got pregnant when she shouldn't. And actually brought me to Montclair, New Jersey, believe it or not. And I was born here. And eventually I engaged in a law enforcement role as a municipal police officer in Middletown Township, Red Bank, New Jersey. And then I was bored with that already, and then somehow or another I thought, you know, there's this new type of agency that they've created, state college police departments, and I was one of the founding members of Montclair State College. So I had an interesting outlook on a group of young Asian Americans who are looking to become law enforcement officers. And yes, I've traveled to Japan, I've traveled to, not mainland, but Hong Kong. I actually taught at their National Police Academy. My daughter-in-law is Chinese. I have 7 half Korean American nieces and nephews, but they're in California. Mom and dads will understand when I say that they're all out in California. They're a little bit weirder than the rest of us, but the connections that I've had, especially with my daughter-in-law's parents, who my wife and I spent a lot of time cruising with on Disney, I've learned a lot about Asian culture. And some of the things that I've learned in terms of tradition and in terms of what I've learned in humanity and feelings and wonder are those that I've come to admire. And with my littlest granddaughter, who's 8 years old, who's like the family philosopher, my wife, who's very ethnically challenged. So she's part Puerto Rican, part Native American, part Spaniard, part Sicilian, and probably a bunch of other little pieces thrown in there. She tried to explain to her little granddaughter, you know, you're all these things. And she looks at her grandmother and she goes, so you're telling me I'm half all these things and I'm half Chinese? Yes, that's correct. She goes, I'm sticking with the Chinese part. So she has become the family philosopher, and the first thing I did was send a picture to her of me standing here with many of you taking pictures already this evening. So I've come on a long journey, and Paul and I shared some of that as a founding member of Montclair State University, then College Police Department. And I moved on from there, held various ranks. I was probably the first detective, first crime prevention officer, a lot of different things. But what I wanted to say to you is that don't be bound by what you think is tradition as you look to move your career into law enforcement and where you want to go in law enforcement. Because what's perceived as the traditional law enforcement job as a uniformed police officer in a municipal or university police department is not where all of it is. It's not where all the challenges are. It's not where all the experiences are. So I just retired as the special agent in charge of the Office of Criminal Investigation in the New Jersey Department of the Treasury. And probably until tonight, most of you had never ever heard of us. We like it that way because I don't like to talk to the media. Whereas other agencies talk to the media a lot. Chief, you like to talk to the media? No. Neither of them will raise their heads, of course not. It's a difficult task at times. So we kept a low profile. But now I'm returning and I'm discussing what my new role is as Chief in Treasury in terms of Homeland Security and Infrastructure Protection and our relationship with OHSP. So, thanks to Paul and our friendship of over 40 years, I sit on the board of directors of the IACP, the International Association of Chiefs of Police. And I think that, you know, just to give you a little hint of what I've talked to my table about, what does the Office of Criminal Investigation New Jersey Treasury do? They are a state version of ATF, a state version of IRS criminal, with the responsibility for internal affairs for 7,000 civilian employees. A difficult task at times where you surely want to go up behind somebody and whisper in the ear and go, what were you thinking when you did that? When you start to get involved in a law enforcement career, look at what is not the easiest for you, but what presents the best challenge. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do with your education? And you need to walk in the door to come into our agency. You already have to have your 4-year degree. You already have to have 1 year as a criminal investigator to even knock on the door. My own son, who's a uniformed police officer, can't come and work in the Office of Criminal Investigation because he's not does not have the experience of being a detective or a criminal investigator. So it's a different little take on what we do. We do everything from counterfeiting, hijacking, smuggling cigarettes, counterfeit alcohol, motor fuel smuggling and hijacking, things that you don't hear about and read about every day. We do all the white-collar crimes, all the tax offenses, all of the things where there's hidden money. And we actually have an element that does nothing but terrorism-related cases with both the Joint Terrorism Task Force, which we belong to, and our relationship on a day-to-day basis with New Jersey Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness. So it's a very unique agency. And there are a lot of agencies out there that will seek out you as a young person, well-educated hopefully, maybe language capabilities, and there are experiences and opportunities that are in front of you. And the parents, when they start to nag you about school and stuff, it's all well-intended, it's all, you know, they want the best for you, but understand that you're going to have to do it yourself. It's not about it just happening, you're going to have to do it yourself. And if you don't, then you'll do what I did for the first 8 years, which is spend time in a police car in a uniform. Okay? I've traveled around the world because of my job. I've had opportunities to do a lot of different things, a lot of investigations, work undercover, etc. So I would tell you that now's the time to learn as much as you can. Go to as many schools and opportunities when you do first get on the job, and to find someone who becomes your mentor. Okay? Find someone who will look out for you, show you the ropes, and whisper in your ear every once in a while, that's not the right path to be on. All right? So I'm open for opportunities to talk to you. I look forward to meeting many more of you. I wish you the best of luck in your pursuit of a law enforcement career. It's a wonderful, wonderful profession. You will get a lot out of it if you decide to go that path. And the whole thing will be is about, at the end of your shift, is going home safe to your family. All right? Congratulations. Good to meet all of you.
Wonderful job, Chief. Thank you so much. Okay, our next special guest is spending no time to get up here right away, so I have to be fast to introduce him. But his name is Johnny Page. Johnny Page, a former FBI supervisory special agent here in New Jersey. After that career, he stepped into the Office of Homeland Security and Domestic Preparedness, and that's what he currently does right now. But more importantly, he's a good friend of mine, Mr. Johnny Page.
Thank you for having me. I think you're going to tell right away I have a very bad New York accent, so if you get me nervous, I speak quicker and quicker, quicker. A little maybe different tone. I grew up in Greenwich Village in West Village in one of these walk-up apartments similar to Chief's cell. And I think I was watching television one night and it was a black and white television, it wasn't color, it was one of those big square boxes. And I saw, I think it's Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. or something as an FBI agent. I said, man, that could be for me. But I didn't think it was ever going to happen, but it did happen. So I want to at least talk about how it happened for me so you can get an idea. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I got out of high school. Everybody at my table already knows pretty much what profession they're interested in, what university they want to go to. But my dad happened to be an accountant. He went to a place called Peace University in New York by the Brooklyn Bridge. And I had an accounting degree. But I decided, instead of being an intern, which I recommend everybody don't do what I did, I decided to be a New York State lifeguard for 7 years between high school and college, so that when I went on my first interview and they said, what accounting have you done outside of college courses? I said, well, I counted the people on the beach to make sure that I had the same number. So needless to say, that didn't help me initially get into the accounting world, so I ended up being a New York City cab driver for a while, and then a doorman for a while, and then a teacher for a while. And then, thankfully for me, and it doesn't happen anymore, at the time the New York Times would advertise job positions. And my roommate in college said I just got a job in Newark, New Jersey as an IRS agent. And he said, you should put in there hiring. So I put in, and I didn't think they were ever going to hire me. But they did, and in respect to everybody here from New Jersey, it's not the way New Jersey is now, but within about a few months I started asking questions saying, there's only people here from Connecticut and Pennsylvania and New York, why do we have nobody from New Jersey? And sadly, at least in the federal system of the IRS, there was so much corruption at the time, they wouldn't hire anybody from New Jersey for almost about 10 years. So that was selfishly helped me get the job in New Jersey. So much like you heard Mr. Goodman say, I spent most of my IRS career working with little boxes of information and paperwork to medium corporations to very large ones. But then I began to work with the FBI. And sadly in our state, we've had many prosecutions of politicians. And on every single case, whether it's a state case or a federal case, they always have their Treasury Department involved because the politicians usually don't report on the tax returns, they pay their taxes. I did that for a while, and I was lucky, and I began to work with FBI agents, and you can't tell now, but I once was in the shape of the chief of Saddlebrook, and so, but at first they said they were going to hire me, then they said they wouldn't, and they said they would again, and I was very honored again in New Jersey. People, for some reason, were afraid to work in New Jersey. In the FBI, so that they guaranteed I could work in New Jersey as an FBI agent as long as I wanted. And I did, and was honored to be a special agent, supervisor of special agent in North Jersey at the end of my career. And I said, well, why are you so afraid of New Jersey? I think people have read about, sadly, crime statistics of Newark and Camden and Trenton and Patterson and Passaic. And then they flew into the airport and they saw the refineries and didn't realize New Jersey had some of the most beautiful places to live and to worship and to share. But when I first joined the FBI, you could stay an FBI agent until you were 90 years old if your brain continued to work. But then they decided, almost 15 years ago, if you're 55 or 57, it's time, you're a broken toy, your springs don't work anymore, mentally you're not doing so well. So I wanted to stay in law enforcement. I love accounting and finance and economics and taxes, but I also love law enforcement. And New Jersey started that first Department of Homeland Security and Preparedness, one of the few in the nation that does that, where we have about 21 detectives, about 80 other people, and we work on counterterrorism, counterintelligence, cybersecurity, and preparedness. But we're so small, we don't do this by ourselves, we do this in conjunction with all the agencies. We're one of the few states where if you call up and say, there's a suspicious car outside the church across the street, that immediately that gets reported through our fusion center at the state police headquarters to the FBI. They look at it to see if they're interested. If they don't want to do it, it comes back, and the detectives who work with me, or the county, or the treasury, work on every single lead that comes to our state. We're one of the few states that do that, and we should be very honored. I have a very honored position now. I get to visit all of the 21 counties and resolve any issue involving religious groups in our state. So I didn't know this at the time, but we have about 120 Islamic mosques in our state, 56 Hindu temples, 13 Sikh places of worship, 28 Coptic Christian churches. At one time when he thought the only pope was in the Vatican, but I know there's many more popes now. And we have thousands of Christians and Jewish places of worship and others. So we spent years and years worried about Giant Stadium and the Meadowlands and the malls. But in about the last 8 years since the shooting in Wisconsin, we've spent a real lot of time on enhancing security of places of worship, just with ideas. From the point of view, at least from the FBI standpoint, I tried to be an NYPD police officer. They said they were going to hire me, they didn't. And lo and behold, a turn in events, I was honored to be hired by the IRS and the FBI in the state of New Jersey. At least to me, there's no better profession that you could ever have than law enforcement. And at least at my table, it's almost perfect. People who work for me in the FBI or with me were pharmacists, dentists, doctors, accountants, people with financial degrees, people with forensic science degrees. And certainly the women in the audience, the FBI started in the 1970s, thankfully, to hire women to be agents. So they're about 20% of the staff agents now and growing, and they usually make tremendous FBI agents in every way. For the young men and women, the good news of all of our speakers, I think, is that you need to have a bachelor's degree. Most people that apply at the state of New Jersey, the federal system, now have bachelor's, master's, speak several languages. And so there's some competition, but there's no one in this room that can handle that situation. So for me, selfishly, the greatest job you could ever have. And I would recommend it to everybody, not just the FBI, but people think that sometimes the FBI and the state of New Jersey Homeland Security or taxation, they're the people that are doing the toughest job. No. It's your local law enforcement, your college police, and the state troopers that show up by themselves when we call that have the real tough job. But certainly for everybody here, I would at least ask you to consider, and amongst everything else you want to do, and a lot of times in law enforcement, even though they give you only till you're about 55 to stay with them, that's why you have a degree in accounting or financing or nursing or chemistry, so you can go on to do that profession if you need to. So thank you so much. Any questions you have, please, I thank Daniel for inviting me, and he has my email. I'll be glad to give my card in any way I can help anybody in this room make that dream that came true for me come true for you. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We have some really special guests here tonight. Basically headliners compared to what I am. Me and Ronnie, a little fish compared to these big fish here tonight. But lo and behold, a very special guest just arrived. And I call him a good friend of mine as well. His name is Bruce Balter. He's a Supreme Court judge in the New York State. He's not only a good friend, but a professional, because he yields law amongst our society. He's pro-law enforcement, so he comes into the game. Everybody should be pro-law enforcement, right? Especially in today's time. Without law and order, you have chaos. If you come into Judge Balter's court, he realizes right away what the facts are, and he makes decisions based upon law and order. Nobody's going to get away with breaking the law in his court. But Judge Balter is a very successful Supreme Court judge. He holds the rank of colonel in our armed forces. He's attended the FBI Citizens Academy as a graduate and received the prestigious FBI Director's Award from Robert Mueller. And at this time, I want to bring him up to introduce him to say a few remarks to this wonderful crowd, these fine young men and women and their parents. At this time, please give your attention, Supreme Court Justice, the Honorable Bruce Balter.
everybody. It's a pleasure to be here amongst Chief Kugler, Chief Paul Sell, immediate past president of the International Association of Chiefs of Police, and a dear friend, and my dear friend, Officer Daniel Sung, the executive director of this organization, which does so much, because it's a pleasure for me. I've come to this meeting several times in the past because the students I see here are energetic, they're responsible, and they honor their parents, which is a wonderful thing. And I used to get a lot of emails from the students asking me about advice and the next step in schooling, and it's really special. It's very nice to be here. As you can tell, I lost my voice. I wasn't well for a few days, but I made the effort to come because it's so important to support Chief Kugler, Chief Sell, especially Daniel Sung, in this great endeavor for this wonderful organization, the United States Law Enforcement Coalition, and to meet you, because you, how you doing there? To encourage you to continue with your studies. That's the most important thing. You all have options and choices in life, and that's a wonderful thing. You can go into any field you want in this wonderful country, but the key is education and studying. And you feel the studying is a little bit too much for you, go to your friends, let them help you, talk it out with them. There's no need to go off the path, follow the wrong people in school, and end up in front of me. Because when you come to the courtroom, you're not going to leave. And we're fair. We want to give everybody their rights. We have to balance the rights of the community as well as the rights of defendants, and we make it a fair and even playing field, that everybody's constitutional rights are protected. It's a wonderful thing about our society and our country and our Constitution, that your rights, through the Bill of Rights, in our Constitution are solidified, unlike many countries throughout the world. Only talk about it, but there are no rights. So you're ahead of the game in whatever you do. So I want to just encourage you to continue studying, and you have some great mentors here. Paul Sell and Daniel Sung and Bob Kugler are just wonderful people. They dedicate so much time away from their families and responsibilities because, as Daniel would say, he wants to pass it to the next generation, because that's where the key to our future in this country lies. And I thank you all for that, to continue to honor your parents, to honor the country you live in, and to be productive members, so one day you could pass that torch to the generation that follows you. Thank you and good evening.
Judge, thank you so much. So great to see you. The judge has received a number of awards from law enforcement associations, not only New York, New Jersey, but from really around the country. And like I said, he's pro-law enforcement, he's pro-law and order, and that's what you would want in any government position, especially as high as the Supreme Court. So Judge, thank you for what you do for our society and every man and woman who are part of our communities. Lo and behold, our special guest that seems to be always here, and even tonight made his appearance, even though he had about 4 other things to do, is a good friend called Ron Regan. Ron Regan's been here from the inception of our program from the beginning, and continues to be with us because he really cares. Just like all our special guests. I'm very proud to say that the special guests that Daniel puts together and assembles to come here for these gatherings really care. There's a lot of activities that we are involved with, but this one is most important for our younger generations. And like the judge has said, we want to pass the torch on, because you are going to be the leaders of tomorrow. But at this time, please, let's just bring Ronnie Reagan up for a brief introduction and another round of remarks. Ronnie Reagan.
I hate you. It's horrible when you're the last speaker and everyone else is so dynamic, but I'm here. And every month I'm at another board meeting, and it's the same night as this, And I said, okay, I'm gonna go. It was a special board meeting over at the FBI. I'm sitting there and I get a text from somebody in this room like, are you okay? I left. This is where I belong. And just as the judge was saying, he gets messages from some of the students here. I get messages and phone calls. And I have to say, last month I had 3 of the students, not from this class, but from previous ones, reach out because they needed help, they needed advice. And I'm thrilled to be able to do it. And one of, not from this organization, but I think I had mentioned this class or another one, I had received a phone call from Korea that there was a young girl coming to New York and the family was concerned for her safety. Could I meet her? So I met her in New York and we went out to dinner and I took her sightseeing and she had a great time and I had a great time. And a year later I got a call from her brother who says, my sister raved about it so much, I want to come to your house. I said, when do you want to come? He says, next week. And I said, what do you want to do? He says, I want to sit in your house and drink scotch and talk. Lo and behold, he came, and this week I became a grandpa to a Korean little girl. Wow. So, this is where I belong. I didn't belong at the other board meeting, I belonged here. And last month's meeting, I always talk about life's lessons. One of the speakers last month taught me life's lessons. One word, communication. And I think that's the key to everything. If you don't communicate well, obviously I didn't communicate well, I'm divorced, but it's only once. But you know what, if you don't communicate to your spouse, if you don't communicate to your employer, if you don't communicate to your friends, you can't expect things to get better. And I learned that here, last month, from one of you. So you're teaching me. And I don't want to keep the program going because you had a lot of speakers tonight, dynamic speakers, and I thank you for inviting me.